Okay, so who among us doesn't love a movie cameo? When they're done right, they can add a little pinch of flavor to an already fun film, and it's often all the better if said cameo is massively unexpected. Like if Kermit the Frog showed up in John Wick Chapter 5. I think that would be pretty great. 2024, though, has seen some great cameos in particular, so let's get into them. I'm Ewan, this is What Culture, and here are 10 recent movie cameos nobody saw coming. Number 10. Jason Momoa, The Fall Guy. The Fall Guy ends with duplicitous action star Tom Ryder, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, being arrested for trying to frame his heroic stuntman Colt, played by Ryan Gosling, for a death he himself caused. The final scene shows the trailer for the film Ryder was working on at the time of his arrest, a space opera called Metal Storm, directed by Jodie Moreno, portrayed by Emily Blunt. But as it turns out, Ryder has been replaced, with his part evidently being reshot with Jason freaking Momoa. The trailer hilariously introduces Momoa as an MTV Best Kiss Award nominee, joining Tropic Thunder as the next best movie to deploy that zinger, after which we're treated to a glorious sizzle reel of the guy mugging, kicking ass, and dropping all sorts of absurd quips. And yeah, it doesn't take a genius to realize that Momoa was a much better fit for this campy brand of action schlock anyway. To sweeten the cameo, a mid-credits scene reveals that Tom was actually killed in a pyrotechnics explosion while being arrested, after which his personal assistant Alma, played by Stephanie Sue, races to call up Momoa's agent. Number 9. Christopher McDonald, Beverly Hills Cop, Axel F. But comedy cameos don't come more hilariously out of left field than Christopher McDonald in Beverly Hills Cop Axel F, a movie I desperately wished I enjoyed as much as the rest of you did, but had some fun moments like this all the same. Midway through the movie, Detective Abbott, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Axel, of course portrayed by Eddie Murphy, crash land their chopper on a golf course, where they cross paths with McDonald's golfer character, who is very clearly supposed to be the actor's iconic Happy Gilmore villain, Shooter McGavin. McDonald's officially unnamed character, credited only as Golfer, comes to blows with Abbott and Axel due to the golf course being private property, though they eventually distract him by telling him there's a dying woman in the back of their chopper's smoldering wreckage. While the golfer runs to help, the duo makes off with his golf cart and continue their caper. Given that there's no shared DNA between Beverly Hills Cop and Happy Gilmore whatsoever, this is a totally random cameo. It apparently came about when director Mark Malloy and casting director Mary Veneur were looking for a fun name actor to play the golfer role, and in that respect, they absolutely crushed it. Number 8. Matthew Goode, Abigail. Abigail revolves around the titular vampiric ballerina, played by Alicia Weir, who spends the movie picking off the various deplorables who've kidnapped her. She was initially kidnapped and held to ransom because she's the daughter of Christophe Lazar, a powerful crime lord, and Lazar himself only shows up in the very final scene of the film. Here, Lazar is revealed to be played by Matthew Goode, and considering we see him sporting fangs and mentioning that he's, quote, gone by countless names over the years, it's obvious that he's really playing Dracula, even if the name is never spoken out loud. After all, this is a loose remake of the 1936 film Dracula's Daughter, a fact Universal and the filmmakers opted to distance themselves from during production, so who else could Goode really be playing? Goode's role lasts all of about 2 minutes in the movie, and while it ultimately feels a bit tacked on, it's still fun to see him having it up in a part he was perfectly cast for. Number 7. Lindsay Lohan, Mean Girls. Now, it probably shouldn't have been a surprise that Lindsay Lohan showed up in the recent Mean Girls musical adaptation, but considering that all 4 leads of the original 2004 film, Lohan, Rachel McAdams, Amanda Seyfried, and Lacey Chabert, kept their mouths shut about this new film, it genuinely seemed like they weren't going to be in it. So, what a thrill it was then that Lohan showed up at the very end of the movie as the moderator of the Mathletes tournament. It's a blatant and point at the screen like Leo fan service cameo, and honestly, why the hell not? Lohan's part in the film was soured just a little bit though, by the inclusion of a joke referring to the infamous quote-unquote fire crotch scandal of 2006, where socialite Brandon Davis referred to Lohan by this name in a paparazzi video. Yeah, Lohan's rep stated that she was, quote, very hurt and disappointed by the reference being included in the new film, enough that Paramount Pictures decided to cut the joke from Mean Girls' home release entirely. Number 6. Brad Pitt, If. Here's a cameo you quite literally did not see coming. In the end credits for John Krasinski's new adventure film, If, which, come on, surely we can do better movies for kids than this, right? Brad Pitt is credited as Keith, an invisible If imaginary friend who Cal, played by Ryan Reynolds, keeps tripping over. Because it's not funny enough to cast an actor as famous as Pitt in a role where he's never seen on screen, not unlike his prior invisible cameo as the Vanisher in Deadpool 2, he also never says a single word. So basically, Pitt got a screen credit and probably some tasty residuals for doing literally no work at all. And given this is the second time Pitt and Reynolds have cooked up the gag, it seems to be a bit of a running joke between the duo. You never saw this one coming because there's a damn good chance you didn't even see his name pop up in the end credits either. Number 5. Kenan Shipka, Long Legs. It was rumored long before Longlegs' release that the film had secured a cameo from a well-known actor, and that turned out to be Mad Men and Chilling Adventures of Sabrina star Kenan Shipka. A barely recognizable Shipka shows up for a single brief scene in which she plays Carrie Ann, the only known survivor of serial killer Longlegs, played brilliantly, of course, by Nicolas Cage. Carrie Ann details to FBI agent Lee Harker, Micah Monroe, her traumatic run-in with Longlegs as a child, delivered in a grim monotone that couldn't be further from Shipka's peppy work in Sabrina. As for how Shipka ended up in Longlegs at all, well, she starred in director Osgood Perkins' 2015 horror film The Black Coat's Daughter, and presumably couldn't resist the opportunity to collaborate with him once again. Number 4. Jon Hamm and John Slattery, Unfrosted. Jerry Seinfeld's inexplicably Emmy-nominated Netflix film Unfrosted may have been instantly forgettable, but there's a single scene that just might have stuck in your brain all the same. The Pop-Tart biopic, and don't laugh, features a surprise dual cameo from Mad Men stars Jon Hamm and John Slattery, playing a pair of ad men who present Kellogg's with an inappropriately sexy ad pitch for the humble Pop-Tart, one which they predictably reject. Though Hamm and Slattery's characters presumably aren't named on screen for legal reasons, the twosome are very clearly supposed to be reprising their respective Mad Men roles of iconic ad honchos Don Draper and Roger Sterling. This is by far the funniest scene in the film, with Hamm and Slattery bringing an infectiously po-faced sense of fun to their brief cameos. You can tell they had a blast filming it, and if nothing else, it was a welcome reminder that Mad Men is one of the greatest works of television ever produced. Number 3. Miley Cyrus, Drive Away Dolls. Ethan Coen's Drive Away Dolls features one of the most bewildering and unexpected cameos in recent memory. Miley Cyrus makes an uncredited appearance as Tiffany Plastercaster, a hippie woman who creates plaster casts of men's penises, including Senator Gary Chanel, here played by Matt Damon, who is making another of his many career cameos. Cyrus only appears in the film for a few scattered seconds, yet even with the kaleidoscopic visuals surrounding her, there's no mistaking that we're looking at the pop icon herself. It doesn't get close to topping the brilliance of her cameo in The Night Before, where she gamely played herself, and oh my god, that movie is so underrated. This one does get a lot of points for coming totally out of nowhere. Also, fun fact, Tiffany Plastercaster is actually based on a real person, Cynthia Plastercaster, who indeed created plaster casts of celebrities' penises and later branched out to include female artists' breasts also. What a world. Also, I said plaster cast way too many times then. Someone please help me. Number 2. Anya Taylor-Joy, Dune Part 2. Because Dune Part 2's cast apparently wasn't ludicrously stacked enough, Denis Villeneuve had a surprise cameo lying in wait for fans, with Anya Taylor-Joy appearing for about 30 seconds in total as Alia, Paul Atreides' currently unborn sister, who appears to him in fleeting visions. It's hardly a shock to say that Taylor-Joy fits quite nicely into the world of Dune, even if her casting required the role of Alia to be significantly aged up from Frank Herbert's novel. By the end of Herbert's original Dune book, Alia is already 4 years old, and in sequel novel Dune Messiah, she's 16 years of age, considerably younger than Taylor-Joy's 26 years at the time of shooting. And so, Villeneuve will certainly need to come up with a creative way to explain Alia's more mature appearance in the sure-to-happen planned adaptation of Dune Messiah. And before we get to our final entry, if you haven't seen Deadpool and Wolverine yet, know that major spoilers will follow, so skedaddle out of here if you don't want to have anything ruined for you. Go, now is your time, go. And number 1, Wesley Snipes, Deadpool and Wolverine. There were many absolutely ridiculous rumors doing the rounds about who might show up in Deadpool and Wolverine, but who the hell had Wesley Snipes' Blade on their bingo card? Midway through the movie, Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool and Hugh Jackman's Wolverine cross paths with a gang of oddball superheroes within the Void, with whom they team up to battle Cassandra Nova, Emma Corrin, and her goons. Among them is indeed Blade himself, with Snipes slipping effortlessly back into his iconic role that helped put superhero movies on the map over a quarter century ago, in turn causing an entire generation of superhero fans to mark the hell out. A 61-year-old Snipes shows he hasn't missed a step, offering up a note-perfect reprisal of the role, which even sees him trade some meta bumps with Reynolds, who of course co-starred alongside him in Blade Trinity. While Snipes' Blade remains in a good deal better standing than Jennifer Garner's Elektra or Channing Tatum's until now unrealized Gambit, this nevertheless felt like a fond farewell for Snipes' version of the character ahead of the MCU's own upcoming take, to be played by Mahershala Ali, a movie that is absolutely, definitely gonna get made. Yep, that's definitely happening. On a serious note though, those first 2 Blade movies, iconic, brilliant pieces of superhero cinema. All due respect to Ali in that, but it's gonna take a heck of a lot to top them.